Hi everyone, KL Kettle here. Welcome to episode 16 of the Book Chain Project, Series 1. Don't forget, if you'd like to apply to be part of Series 2 in next year, that's 2022, then you can follow the link below at www.klkettle.com. This week, Bryony Pierce is talking to James Nichol, both who write spooky stories, but Bryony writes more YA, and James is well known for his Apprentice Witch series. Here are some of the books. They came out quite a few years ago now, and actually he mentions that when they recorded this, it was the 5th year anniversary of book 1 being published, and he's working on his new books at the moment. James is a great pioneer for literature with kids and does fantastic talks for children, and I really hope that you enjoy his interview today. I'll see you on the other side.
Hello everyone, and I'm excited to be talking to, there you are, hello. So we are just waiting for, there we go, Georgia to join, start our interview. I think she's coming in a minute. This is going to be so much fun. I cannot wait to talk about Georgia's book. There she is.
Hello.
How are you
Hi.
doing?
I'm good, Marissa. How are you?
Good. I am good. I am glad the weather is a bit cooler. Yeah. Although the thunderous rain is a bit, you never know what you're going to get when you walk out the house, but I'm coping.
Yeah, it's been, and I've been sitting here waiting to get started, and when about 10 minutes ago, I had the absolute perfect lighting coming in through the doors, and then all of a sudden the sun's gone and I was in some shadows this side, natural light this side. So
all the glow, it looks very magical, yeah. Which is so appropriate. So I cannot wait to talk about your book. I finished your book last week and I loved your book. I thought it had some really original ideas and I thought it was fantastic. So tell us a little bit about your journey and about this book and how you've kind of come to write this book and what it's about and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okie dokie. Right. So I think it's probably a bit unusual, my journey, really. I've been writing for, how long? 9 years or something like that. You forget, don't you, how long it's been going on. And obviously been trying to get an agent all that time. I've written about, I think, Mark of the Wicked was maybe my 5th book, I think, that I'd written. So yeah, trying to get an agent, you write a book, doesn't get anywhere, you move on, write the next one, and you just keep trying and trying. And then meanwhile, there was this website called Swoon Reads, which was a Macmillan kind of run website, Macmillan US. And it was kind of like the X Factor for books. So you could upload your manuscript on there. Everybody votes for it, says how great it is. That's the idea. And then the ones that kind of get the top amount of votes or whatever, the editorial team would have a little meeting about them and see whether they like them or not, or whether they wanted to kind of get in touch with you about publishing. So I put, the book was called Dark Tilly back then, and I put that on there and just kind of forgot about it. And you go through the whole like journey of despair with your book where you're sending it out to agents and you're just not getting anything, and then all of a sudden out of the blue I got an email from Macmillan saying we'd like to talk to you about your book. So
how long was that between when you'd put it up there? How long did that take for you to get that email? Right, yeah,
it was months. I think because you have to, when you put it on there, you kind of agree to all these terms, and I think one of the things was that you had to have it on there for at least 6 months, I think, before you then took it off and did anything else with it.
So who's actually reading and voting on it then? Are you asking people to do that, or
family members?
Yeah.
Friends and family mostly. But the Swoon Reads community is absolutely massive. There's loads of people on there reading and just commenting and showing all these books love, And I used to go on there as well, and you know, it's really fun to read. You know, as we know, it's really fun to read books when, you know, that people are trying to get out there and everything. So, but the website doesn't exist anymore. They shut it down. I think my book was actually the last one that they published before. Yeah. So yeah, so that's how I ended up getting published. So yeah, I still don't have an agent, but
It's almost like winning the X Factor, isn't it? Where you know, you've got this, now you're going to have people clamoring after you. And it's going to be so exciting when it comes out. It's next month, isn't it? When it releases officially. Yeah, it's so beautiful. I mean, look at that cover.
I know, isn't she beautiful?
How much involvement did you have in that cover? I mean, well, it is beautiful, isn't it?
Thank you. I do love her. Sorry, I do refer to her as she, my book. They asked me to do some Pinterest boards and stuff. They asked me to just go, Macmillan did, Swim Reads did, and they just said, go around, have a look at some in some bookshops and give us an idea of the sort of covers you like. So I did that and sent them some ideas, but I had literally no clue what they would do with it, or, you know, what I just really had no idea. So when they sent me, they sent me sort of the mock-up, and I was completely blown away. I was just like, this is amazing. And then they sent the finished version, and I was just like, I mean, you know what it's like when you see the cover of your book for the first time. I was just completely overwhelmed. So
no major changes, nothing that you were really, you know.
No.
That's
the only thing was on the original. I don't know if can you see that?
Yeah.
Her face was a lot more covered. You couldn't see as much of her face. So I think the marketing team said that they wanted to see more of her face. So she reminds me of somebody, and I don't know, I think it might be Rachel Lee Cook. Do you remember her from what was it called? She's All That. Anybody?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah,
anyway.
You might be onto something there. Yeah, that's very exciting.
Not I've spent hours staring at the cover or anything.
No. So you mentioned this was your 5th book that you've actually written.
Yes.
So did you feel that this was the one that you thought might get somewhere? Did you have any kind of inkling that you know that was going to happen?
Yeah, I kind of I think out of all of the things, because it's a real journey, isn't it? When you write your first novel and you think it's a bestseller, and then you look back on it and you're just like, oh, that's really embarrassing. I tried a few different things, and then when I wrote this, I was writing it and I thought, you know, I think this really works. The story works, the plot works, how it all comes together at the end, and I kind of felt like it was special, and it felt special to me, and I just kind of, I really, when I started sending it out to agents originally, I was getting really good feedback, and I was, you know, I was getting a lot of requests to see the full manuscript, more than I had for anything else that I'd written. And then it was just, you know, obviously they were like, oh, it's not what we're looking for at the moment, but it's really great, and, you know, we think that you'll find a place for it. So I kind of knew, but then I'd sort of given up on it really, and sort of forgotten about it. And you start a new project, don't you? So, but it was just always there. She was just hanging around in the dark depths of my soul. She was just holding on. And yeah, so and then it all worked out in the end. So that was good.
So will there be more of Matilda's story to come potentially, or?
Well, I was talking about this today. Without ruining the book, I guess we could do a sequel. What do you think? The sequel's, you know, potential for a sequel, maybe.
I think there's a lot of room to explore. Actually, I do. I think. In some ways, she's only beginning her journey with her new group of friends. Shall we put it that way?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot that she could explore with that. So, but before we try to pretend not to spoil it, give us a little summary about what it's about, because obviously it's not out quite yet. So tell the readers, tell the people watching what your book is actually about.
Okay, so it's about a girl called Matilda, who is a young witch. She's 16, 17 years old. Yes, because she has a birthday in the book, doesn't she? So, and she is really quite unpleasant. She's not very nice. She uses dark magic to get what she wants and to annoy the people who cross her. And she's quite happy with this rather unpleasant existence until dead animals start showing up in her town with her name carved into them, and it seems as though somebody is trying to frame her for the use of dark magic. So she kind of partners up with the new boy in town, Oliver, to try and work out what's going on, who's using this magic, who else could be using this magic in town. She's not aware of any other witches apart from her and her family. So yeah, it's kind of a mystery, and they start to unravel the mystery whilst Matilda she starts suffering from blackouts and things like that, and her magic starts to wane. So it's all very mysterious.
Yeah, she has quite a lot of journeys to go on, not just with her magic, but also with friendships and family. And, you know,
Yes.
you've done a lot in this one book. And one of the things that I found really interesting is when we first meet Matilda, you know, she's not a likable character because she is using magic to her advantage, and there are serious consequences to that. But as you go through the book, you really root for her. So how did you decide that you were going to write an unlikable character from the start, or did she just come out that way? How did you actually come to have this character like that?
I think I'm glad you say that you sort of start to root for her, because I think there's that risk, isn't there, when you have like a really horrible character that you're not interested in their journey at all. So it's good to hear that. But yeah, when I started out with her, I think I had some images in my head of what I wanted her to do. One of which was her swallowing a bee, and she does that right at the beginning. And I thought, someone who does that as part of a magic spell has got to, you know, she can't be particularly pleasant. And so it just sort of worked from that sort of scene, really. And I think unlikable characters, when they're a bit sort of, you know, morally grey, they're a bit more interesting. If she was all sort of sunshine and, you know, this is right and that's wrong, and I think she could have been a bit boring. So, and I thought if she starts off really unlikable, then her journey could be a bit more interesting as well, and trying to get the reader to root for her.
Absolutely.
So
I think that one of the interesting things about an unlikable character is you've got so much more to do with them throughout the arc of their character development. And, you know, when I write books, I find it really hard to make people unlikable because I want the reader to identify, and I get worried that they don't. But actually, I think what you've done is so clever, because you've given them so much more of a growth that the reader gets on board as they've changed from this person that you think, oh God, why are you doing that? You know, you bitch kind of thing, to wow, now I'm really on your side. So it just shows that so much more. So I think it, you know, it takes guts to do that, and you pulled it off so well. So I'm very impressed.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Oh, that's lovely feedback. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think, you know, how you promise yourself you're not going to read the reviews on Goodreads. You know, when you accidentally peek at them, there's a few who are like, I just hated Matilda, I couldn't warm to her. And that's going to happen, because she's not going to be for everybody. So that's really lovely to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. I think I can understand why people would say that, in the sense that, you know, it depends on what you're going in looking for. If you want that character that you can curl up with and share secrets with, Matilda's not going to be that person, but she does become that person. So, you know,
she does.
I want to give her a hug and be like, you've done well. Go, Matilda.
That's it. Yeah, you do. I just always think those characters who kind of, like, they're sort of shut everybody off, and you're just like rooting for them to just open up to somebody, like just open up a little bit, and like just talk to that person, and you know, you just want to kind of just get behind them and just push them forward. So I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah, and I think you showed that really well in the relationship with her mother, which was so strained and so typical of a teenage relationship with her mother, when you're not confiding in your mother and you don't whether you're embarrassed or ashamed of whatever those reasons are.
Yeah.
And she couldn't bring herself to talk to her mother, and she was mad at her mother as well. And you just kind of think, if they just had a conversation,
Yeah.
they could learn so much from it. And the whole time you're kind of like, oh, Matilda, just talk to your mum, just talk to your mum,
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't do that. And I think you did that relationship so well. That was
Oh,
fantastic.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That really means a lot.
I've got to bring in our mutual love of Buffy, because
Yay!
I know that you're a huge Buffy fan as well. What part of Buffy do you think inspired, or did any of Buffy make it into this book, or what about Buffy might have inspired this book or your other books you're writing in general, that kind of thing?
I think Buffy has just had such an impact on my life in every area, that I think I just channel it without even knowing sometimes. I've just had a lovely review from the school library journal where it said that Mark of the Wicked would be great for fans of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and honestly I was just screaming. I was like, okay, I'm done now, that's amazing. But there's a moment, obviously we can't reveal too much, but do you remember when I can't remember what season it was, when Amy the witch comes back and
yes,
yeah, and there's a moment in that episode where Amy's like, oops, caught me, kind of thing. And I remember seeing that bit for the first time, and I was like, whoa, Amy, that's really creepy, that's really awful.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
no moral lines, did she?
No, she didn't. And I just thought it was so clever, because they brought her back, and she kind of been in and out of the show as a rat and all that sort of stuff. And I just thought it was so clever. So I think that bit really stuck with me, and you'll probably realise now in the book.
Yeah, now that you say that,
yeah.
Definitely.
But and obviously Willow and Tara. Need I say more? But the whole witchcraft thing, and how Willow gets really into it, doesn't she? She falls deep, and she's using it willy-nilly. She's not suffering any consequences, and we obviously know how all that turned out. And I think had this stuff that starts happening to Matilda, if that hadn't have happened, then she could have started going that way as well. But also just the little things like the uniform that Matilda wears is the Sunnydale High colours. And yeah, I mean, it's just there, the vibe, the high school thing, and it is mentioned a couple of times, I think, as well, Buffy. So, and I'm working on something else now, which is kind of about like local legends coming to life. And I was watching Hush. I was watching Hush, and it was like, the nursery rhyme, and I was like, oh, that's really creepy. And then all of this stuff started falling into place. So yeah, it's just because it's one of those things, I've seen it so many times that I can have it on in the background whenever I'm like doing anything around the house. So yeah, you just every now and again you hear something and you think, oh yeah, okay,
I totally know what you mean by that. I mean, I've been wanting to write a vampire book for a long time, and it wasn't until I rewatched everything that I got that spark, and I thought, I know what to do with it now, how to get that original. But I've got to say, Hush is one of the creepiest episodes of the whole 7 seasons, actually. So
it's a classic. I like Conversations with Dead People as well. I love that one, where, and I think that's probably a little bit in the book as well, where Willow thinks she's talking to someone, then doesn't quite turn out to be the person she thinks it is. And how many times has that happened in real life, where you're just like, someone is not the person you think they are. So it's brilliant, it's great.
So are you one of the people then that knows all the episodes and what they're called and their titles?
Are you going to test me?
No, I'm not, because I don't actually, and I never remember the names of the episodes. So
well,
I'm impressed.
I haven't been tested in a long time, but because I watched the first 3 seasons so many times, if you read the blurb to me, I'll be able to tell you the title.
Wow.
So
I won't. That's fine. I'll leave it there.
No, maybe another time. Maybe another time. One Friday night when we both haven't got anything to do.
Yeah. Oh no, I wish. Yeah, I don't retain that kind of information, but I'm impressed that people do and they can just recite which episode it was. And I think, oh yeah, so, yeah. So what is your plan for your next? You mentioned you were writing another book. Do you plan to query with agents, or do you know what's your kind of, where do you see your journey going at the moment?
Well, yeah, I'm kind of in a bit of a holding pattern now, which is kind of like just publishing in general, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
So my contract with Macmillan, I have an option for a second book in my contract.
Oh, fantastic.
And my editor really loved my pitch, which was this thing. It's called Legend Buried, it's called, and it's about this character called Nicholas Valentine, who was caught because he was riding around town on a horse, cutting people's heads off and just, you know, causing mayhem. And they caught him, stuck a horseshoe over the back of his neck and buried him face down under a tree.
Wow.
And the legend was that if anybody ever cut the tree down, he would rise again and go on another bloodbath around the town. So cue, you know, 150 years later, and a drunken teenager coming along and cutting the tree down. And of course, he comes back to life, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
So my editor really loved that. But we've got to wait and see what happens with Mark of the Wicked first before we move we move ahead. But I'm still, I need to get an agent. Like that's the thing I'd really like to do. But it's very hard. People keep saying, have you thought about getting an agent? I'm like, no.
No, but hopefully with this success, which I'm sure you're going to have,
thank you.
That will not be hard for you. And I love the sound of this new book, and I'm getting like Sleepy Hollow vibes.
Yes,
I think that's fantastic. So, but also based on a real legend, I'm assuming.
No, made it up. I had a dream about it.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had a dream about it, and it was actually a witch who was buried under the tree.
Wow.
And I thought, I can't write another witch book. So then I thought vampire, and my editor said, there's like vampires, there's too many books on vampires now. So try and think of something else. Think like if it's a spirit or something. Yeah. So
or you know, whatever. Yeah. No, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So.
Oh, wow.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm glad you like the sound of it.
Yeah. I'm totally up for anything spooky, creepy, you know, that's my vibe. So absolutely.
Yeah.
So what about the whole process of publishing did you enjoy the most? What was the most fun part, or the most iconic moment, or, you know, that you really...
Gosh. I think this is really weird because I know people hate it, but I quite enjoyed editing. I quite enjoyed the editing process. Even though I was doing it while we're in lockdown, it was tough, but I like to have that kind of control over because when I do my first draft, it's an absolute mess. It's just... It is like I've just word vomit on the page, and I have to comb through it so many times before it's readable. And even when it's at that point where I can send it to somebody, it still needs a lot of work. So I quite enjoyed like working. I'm really good at following instruction. So when my editor was like, this needs to happen, I'm like, I will make it so. And I really enjoyed that bit. I really enjoyed it. And I thought the copy editing was a really interesting process, because when the copy editor, when they sent me their notes, I think 2 copy editors worked on it, and it was like they were having a conversation between themselves through the document on the track changes. And then every now and then my editor would jump in and say, stet, is it stet, stat, no, what's the word you say, is it stet, when you disagree with what they're saying in the world of editing.
I haven't had that experience, I'm not sure.
Oh, I see. But it was like watching like aliens learning to speak a language, or like some kind of like language program, and I just didn't know what they were going on about. And you know, there was lots of this should be whom, not who, and then I just be like stet. So that was
So
quite
what
good
do you
fun.
do
I
with
just thought,
that? Do you need clarification on that, or were you
yeah,
confused?
yeah,
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
quite confused with a
yeah.
lot of it. I was like, what, Rachel, what does this mean? Rachel, my editor. And she was just like, they just mean this, don't worry. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that was quite, I mean, that was completely new to me, that whole process. And but I felt quite, it was good to be a part of it, even though I didn't understand it. But yeah, so I quite
Kitty just
enjoyed
said
that.
it means
Leave as
yeah.
is, that's
Kitty just
it.
said it
Yeah.
means leave as is. Yeah, and yeah,
Well,
it
yes,
comes from
and
the
then
Latin.
of
Thank you,
course
Kitty. Yeah,
it was then became my favorite word, so I just used to say it around the
yeah.
house as well. If my husband if he questioned something I said, I would stet.
Yeah, leave
So
it there.
yeah, I
Yeah.
have the final
Oh, I
word,
love that.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
And you know what? I think I'm similar to you in the way that, I mean, editing's not my favorite process, but if someone tells me what to do, then
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
that's fine. I just need someone to tell me what to do. It's much
yeah,
easier way, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
So, yeah. What has been the most surprising thing about being published? Like, was there something that happened that you thought, oh, didn't know they did it like that, or you know,
Um,
any particular
I
surprises, or do you think you kind
not
of
not
knew?
really. I
Yeah,
think that I what I've found with the whole thing is, you know, from beginning to end, me getting an email from them saying we want to talk to you, to the actual book coming out. I mean, it's such a long time. I mean, it's pre-pandemic that I found out about it, and just the amount of time it takes to put a book together and get it printed and published and everything. It's just incredible. And you know, the bits that I was doing, you know, took a fair amount of time. And I guess you just have to imagine if you've got like one editor and they're looking after all these different people and they're just trying to, it's just the time management of it all. I was just blown away by it, really. And that there is a lot of time that passes, and you have a lot of, like, you have this euphoria, don't you, when you
yeah,
find out you're being published, and then you have like this like soul crushing dead feeling inside when you're like, they're going to find out that I'm you know, it's terrible, that made a mistake. So there's that like internal kind of emotional roller coaster that you think as a writer, when you finally get that publishing deal, that's you done, like you that's all you want in life. But then when it happens, you realize that there's something else you want in life, which is to be
yeah,
successful and to get a
absolutely.
second book. Yeah, so it was
Yeah,
just all the feelings that came with it that surprised me, but also, as I said, just the amount of time that passes in publishing, how long everything takes.
yeah,
So yeah, and I'm still learning. I'm still like hearing, you know, like, oh, that's surprising, I didn't know that. And how much work they put into the marketing, even though you know, they put a lot of it onto the author, but they're still behind the scenes sort of contacting people and, you know, speaking to bloggers and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, the whole thing's just a bit of a mystery, really, isn't it?
yeah. You know, I think it is right, because no one's journey is the same, and it's not like you. I mean, you can do masters in creative writing, but the journey of agenting and publishing and all, it's so different for everyone that, you know, you
Yeah,
can't prepare yourself or say, well, this is what's going to happen next. And so when it does happen, it's like a nice surprise, really.
yeah, yeah.
And then, you know, but you mentioned about you know, once you get a publishing deal and then wanting the next thing. What does success look like for you? I mean, what is your ultimate goal, I would say?
I think just to steadily be able to publish books that I want to write. I think I know that I'm probably never going to be able to make a living out of this, but I just absolutely, I'm at my happiest when I'm writing.
Yeah.
And when I'm with my family, obviously, but you know what I mean. But I just, you know, and I know when I haven't written for a while, I start to feel really sad, like there's something missing. And then when I write, I realise it's because I haven't been writing. So to be able to do that sort of steadily and get the stuff that I'm writing out there so that people are reading, that's kind of what I want to do, really. That would be kind of success for me. And I love YA. I love reading it, and I love writing it. That's where my heart is. And I've played with picture books, which is really hard, really hard to write a picture book. and I'm still, that's something else that I'm sort of working with, and I'm also working on an adult novel as well. So you know, just keeping
all
busy.
the bases. Yeah.
Yeah, just in case,
Yeah. No,
so yeah, that's it really. I mean, it's all you can hope for, I think, isn't it? I mean, obviously, apart from massive success and a TV series on Netflix, I'd be happy with that. But
clearly, absolutely. So I'm really interested when you got your edits. Was there anything major that you had to change, or that you didn't agree with, or that took you back? You know, did you have any moments like that?
I just, at first, you probably get this when you get your like edit letter, you're like, oh, they hate it, I'm terrible. And then you're like, oh no, they know what they're doing and they're trying to make this better. So there wasn't anything that I completely disagreed about. Just there was because I'm obviously English and it's Macmillan US Swoon reads. There was a few bits and pieces we had to change because the way it was written, it was kind of generic, so it could be anywhere in the world really. So she just said, we're just going to kind of give it a little bit of a US gloss really, so that it is. So we you know, we talked about sophomores and seniors and all that sort of stuff. But there was a lot more there was a lot more horror to it. There was more horror elements and more scenes that were, you know, truly horrific. And my editor just said, it's just too much. It's just too much, Georgia. And in her comment, she was like, ew, too much. No, ew, this is awful. Can we try this again, but make it less gross? And something, another big part of it was that I had to get rid of, there was a bit where a horse dies, and she was just like, this is not going to go down well, and she's a horse lover, and she said, I just can't cope with this and your readers will not like this at all, so you need to change that bit. So we changed that, and we changed the ending slightly.
Okay.
She said it wasn't clear enough what was happening at the end and kind of what happened, so we kind of redid that bit. And then she said it's not long enough, so we need about 40,000 words. So she said normally people have to cut it back, but I'm asking you to add some more. So I wrote more, and again that was during lockdown. But the bits that I added, I really loved. She was really into the whole dynamic between Matilda, her mum, and her grandmother. She said this is a big theme. The three witches, you know, the generations, them living together, the conflict that they have, and I want to see some kind of resolution. And so I came up with this idea. You probably know what bit I'm talking about. And it was just like, I had the craft in my head, I had Hocus Pocus, I had everything. And it was just kind of like classic witch to me, you know, velvet cloaks, that sort of thing in the woods late at night. And it actually became one of my favourite chapters to write, and I found it really emotional to write, and I still feel emotional when I read it now. So I was really glad that she pushed me to write that bit. But yeah, so it was quite different. There was quite a few more, and Matilda's mum was really awful, and she said she's too awful, and she was using her magic to like trick people into signing their houses over to her, and you know, she was really unpleasant, and she was just like, she's too much, you've got to tone her down a bit. So so yeah, I think that was the main things really.
So interesting to hear. I love to hear how a story grows, you know, as development. And but actually that's all we've got time for, and
that's going so quick.
I know. We are going to go and have our after party over on Zoom. So if you're watching, you will be able to see this again on YouTube with a few added extras. And I just want to remind you that Georgia's book comes out next month, Mark of the Wicked. Please read it. It is amazing. Yeah, let's see that cover.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us, everyone. And Georgia, I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay.
Yes, lovely. Cheers, Marissa. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Hi, I hope you really enjoyed that episode. Next week, Georgia will be interviewing Emma Mylrea, author of debut The Curse of the Deer Mad, which came out this year. And it's another spooky one. So join us next week, although it's MG this time. Join us next week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.